Meeting is being recorded.
Outlook is pretty customizable to what you want to see, so just remember this when we're going over different settings, that everything is really up to you and how it will work most efficiently for you. So starting with your mailbox, what we see here on the screen is your typical inbox view. We have a couple different options here along the toolbar. We'll start with the home screen, and this just has your kind of your fast options for Outlook, new mail, choose form, and Justin will go over choose form more later in the presentation. And then you also, if you click on the view toolbar, you have some other options for what this inbox looks like. So starting from the left, you can change your view here on the left-hand side, and you can make your inbox compact, single view, or preview. You can view your settings. One of the important things here is under messages, this show as conversations. This will, if this box is checked here, it will group all messages under one topic in one area in your inbox. This is important to note that if this is checked and you've received multiple messages under one topic, it will all be grouped under the most recent message. So what you can do is you can expand the message with this little arrow shown here if you have your conversation view on. You can also turn it off so that you can see the way that the messages come in from most recent to sent earlier, and this will not group them if it's unchecked. Another option is the message preview shown here at the top, just left of the center. So this option allows you to decide how many lines you want shown of each message within your message preview here. So you can change it to have 2 lines shown, and that will give you a little bit more of the message, know what you're getting into on an email, or you can turn this off completely to just show the subject line. Another option is your folder pane here, right of center. Currently, Justin has it marked as normal. What this does is it shows your favorites at the top. You can also, if this option is checked, you can turn that off. You can also minimize your folder pane so that it's not shown, and it'll give you an option to have this little arrow here, so you can just pop it out when you need it, or you can turn it off completely. I think the default is the normal setting. The reading pane here is shown on the right currently. This reading pane is where your message is shown within the inbox. The default setting is the right, so the message is shown to the right of the inbox messages. You can also have it on the bottom so that your inbox is shown at the top and then the message is on the bottom. You can also turn this off. And then next is your to-do bar, which is shown on the right-hand side of the screen here. And you can have a couple different options here. You can turn it off completely. You can also show a preview of your calendar and also a task list. We'll talk about tasks a little bit later, but those are shown here. Currently no tasks on the task list. In the presentation we'll send out after, it'll also have some mail shortcuts for you, so you can use some hotkeys to create messages or reply or forward. So look for those slides, and those will be coming after the presentation. Some other helpful tips about mail is that under File, Options, a dialog box will come up and you can select Mail on the left-hand side. And you can add spell checks to your mail messages, which is helpful if you're typing a lot of emails quickly, which we normally are. What this will do is when you select Send Message, it will spell check your message, and it will not send until you've gone through the spell check process. You can also scroll down, and under Message Arrival, you can turn on and off your desktop alerts. I know I recently turned these off just to help with some productivity. And so you can turn these on, toggle them on and off.
It's also a good idea, like when you're going to present something, if calendar group to turn those off so that they don't come up on your screen.
Yeah. So I don't know if people on the WebEx heard, but Noelle also said it's helpful to turn those off if you are presenting to a group, to turn those off so that they're not interrupting your presentation every couple of minutes. There's a lot of different options within this dialog box. Some other options that you can go through our conversation view and clean up. You can also turn on warnings regarding attachments, and that's here under send messages. So if you've written the word attached in your email, you can turn on this warning here that if you forgot to attach something, it will warn you before it sends a message. So some helpful ideas here, and also send out a list of helpful links that have tips and tricks for setting up your inbox. Another item that we use often is the out of office. This is not only helpful for you when you go on vacation, but also for your colleagues so that your customers know who to contact, who the right contact is. So if you select File at the top left and you select Automatic Replies, this will prompt a dialog box that will allow you to set an out of office message. You can decide to set it for a specific time range. It also is important to have the same contact on your Inside My Organization and your Outside My Organization tab, as your customers will be reaching out to that person and also your internal customers. So make sure that you have the correct contact information and the same contact information. Moving on to calendar, which you can find at the bottom left here. We'll click this little calendar. Just like your inbox, there's a lot of different options for how the calendar is shown. So you can select it to show just the work week, or if you like to look at it by month, you can select that. It's also helpful to look at it in schedule view if you're trying to schedule a meeting or check somebody's availability. You can also open somebody else's calendar by selecting this Open Calendar from Address Book, typing in your contact, selecting, and it will bring up their calendar so you can see their availability. This is helpful when you're trying to set up a meeting just to get an idea of when that person will be available. You can also set up a calendar group by selecting this calendar groups drop-down in the center, create new calendar group. We'll call this one PDS for Professional Development Series. And then you can add your contacts for who you want in that group. By searching. And then that group will be shown on the left-hand side of the screen here. And you can turn contacts on and off if you're just trying to schedule a meeting between the PDS group. And then if you don't want to see them anymore, you can just turn them off. You also can update your calendar permissions by this button here. This will allow your colleagues to see what you have on your calendar. If you want to keep it private, you can just have it listed as free busy time. If you select full details, people will be able to see everything that you have on your calendar, with the exception of meetings or appointments that you've set as private. So setting up a meeting. You can set up an appointment or a meeting. I think it's more preferable to set up a meeting because you can add your colleagues and you can also reserve resources such as conference rooms. So we'll go through how you can set up a meeting. You select this button here, New Meeting. You add who you would like to add to that meeting in the To toolbar, subject, and then you can select a time if you have one in mind or if you've already looked at their calendar. You can also select Scheduling Assistant here on the left, which will allow you to look at both your schedule and the people that you invite to the meeting schedule. You can also book a conference room this way. So as we see now, Justin is booked for this time, and my calendar is also booked for this time. So looking to set up a half-an-hour meeting, it looks like 1:30 is available. So I can just click here to these open spots, and I'll update the time at the bottom of the meeting invite. If we wanted to set up a room for this, we could also select on the right-hand side of the screen. We can use Room Finder and use the drop-down. And we are in Broomfield, so we'll look for the Broomfield conference rooms. On the Room Finder, they're listed under each floor. The bottom option is also all conference rooms in the building. So we'll just select the second floor, and then Outlook will search for what rooms have availability at that time. I can double click on a room, and then it will add that room to my meeting. If no available rooms pop up, it will also add suggested times here at the bottom right, and you can change the time of the meeting by just selecting those available times and then selecting a room. You can also add more attendees and rooms here, and what you will want to do, sorry about that. You'll want to press send once you have all your meeting logistics set up. Another option within the meetings is that you can select whether you want responses or not. So you can uncheck this request responses. That's helpful if you're inviting a large group to a meeting or an event, so you're not getting pinged with responses every couple of minutes. And it's also very important, at least in the Broomfield office, that once you send a meeting invite and you reserve a conference room, that you receive an accepted email back with your meeting name. If you receive a declined email with that conference room and your meeting name, that means there's a conflicting meeting in that room, and you will need to reschedule or either rebook another conference room for your meeting. Do we have any questions at this time? Anybody on the WebEx? Okay, so just like if you're on the WebEx, can you please make sure that your microphone is muted? So just like in Mail, we have options for our calendar too. So if we select File at the top left, you can select the Options button, and it'll bring up this dialog box again. If you select Calendar, you can set your work time, so your working hours that you're typically in the office. This is helpful if colleagues are trying to set up a meeting. Let's say for Justin, if they were trying to set one up for 7:30, they would see that 7:30 to 8 was grayed out on his calendar, that's not within his typical work hours. So you can set your work hours here at the top. You can also set default reminders. And if you work with customers or colleagues that are in different time zones, you can add a secondary time zone here. You can also add the weather. Any questions on calendar? If not, we'll move on to tasks. Those can be found, you'll either have this little clipboard on your bottom left toolbar, or you can hit this, these three dots, which is just more, select tasks. Justin has a pretty clean task list right now. There's nothing shown, but this will show anything that you've flagged as a to-do or a reminder. It'll just say it as the subject line, or if you've created a new task by using this button at the top left, it will have whatever you set the task name as. Here you can assign tasks to other colleagues, and it will send a message to them and it'll have a due date. You can set a task also through a mail or a calendar object. So we'll go here and say Justin needs to report back on this shortage report. He can right-click on the shortage report email, select follow up and say he wants to follow up today. That will flag the email. Now, if he wants to set a reminder, he can right click, go back to follow up, at the bottom say add reminder, and set a time for that. I'll set it for 4 p.m. today. And that task will then be found on the task list. It will also be found in the inbox, on the task list, on the to-do bar, on the bottom left, bottom right. If you're unsure of what tasks you have and set as a reminder and you just want to take a quick look, you can also select the view toolbar at the top, and on the right-hand side, select reminders window, and it should prompt the reminder that you had today, but it would have it in there, and you could also select to snooze it for later. The presentation that we'll send out later with the slides will also have some tips and tricks for tasks and calendars as well. So my final topic for my part of the presentation, and then Justin will go through some other organization topics, is contacts. So at the bottom left, you can select these two little people. That will be your contacts. And here we see that he has Sherry and Walker set up as contacts, and you can add as many contacts here as you want. You can also add contact groups. So you can use these top left buttons to create new contacts. You can also create new contact group by selecting this button. Say you send a report to the same people every morning. You can say professional development series report, and then add members from address book. Add who you want within that group. You can also, if you accidentally add the wrong person, you can remove them. From this group, you can send an email or a meeting to them directly, or you can just save and close. Now, if I want to send an email to the PDS report group, I can either start from here, or I can go into my inbox, select new mail, start typing the group name, PDS report, and it will add all the contacts that you've added to that contact group. If you want to make sure that everybody's added or just see who this is going to, you can click this little plus button. It'll ask you if you want to expand the list. It won't minimize it again, so it'll ask you if you want to do that. Say OK, and it'll show you the members of that group. These groups are helpful. I know we use them for customer solutions. As people transition off the team to another role, or new hires come in, we can just simply go into these groups and add new members. Add below. And all you have to do is save and close. Okay, and final thing is using the search bars at the top. These can be, there's also helpful keywords. You can use names and email addresses to search at the top of contact groups or within the calendar or your inbox. You can also search by the date that the message was received by writing received and then writing the date. But the presentation we'll send out will have some examples of those keywords and some helpful links as well. And now I'll pass it off to Justin.
All right. So I'm going to walk us through some ways that we can set up our inbox to be a little bit more organized and also increase some productivity by automating some things that are pretty repetitive within the inbox. Some of the topics we're going to hit on really quickly are going to be folders and how to set those up, and assigning favorites, going through categorizing so you can categorize certain emails and senders. Also, some quick steps and email rules to set up to kind of help save some time on those repetitive tasks. So the first thing we're going to start with is setting up folders. As you see on the left side here, got various folders set up just to try and make myself a little bit more organized, and it also helps in searching through old emails when you have to go back and backtrack. But to set up a new folder, you're going to want to click on the Folders tab up at the top here. And on the left side, there's going to be New Folder. So I'm going to name this new folder PDS for Professional Development. And I'm going to have that in my just regular inbox here. I'm going to hit OK. And on the left side now, you can see that the PDS folder is set up in here. You can also add folders to your favorites. There's a couple ways you can do this. Within the Folder tab, you can hit this little tab at the top, Show in Favorites. And you can also right-click on the folder and hit Show in Favorites. So now that'll show up in my Favorites inbox right here at the bottom for PDS. Folder setup is going to be important for some of the other things we're going to set up in regards to automation and quick steps. So it's just a little helpful to be a little bit more organized, and it'll make it a little bit easier to set up some rules as we go through this. Another thing that I want to hit on is categorizing emails. It's really good for people who are a visual learner or operate better off of visuals. And you can kind of see down here, I have this one email already set up as demand planning reset. So I just have that color coded to match that. It's a quick way, easy way to identify certain things in your inbox based on category or sender. And to set those up, at the top of your home tab in your inbox, there's this categorize button. And if you hit that drop down, it'll show you all of the different categories I have set up to mark emails as. If we want to set these up and create a new one, we're going to select all categories. And you're going to hit new right here. So we'll start a new one, and we'll just name this as a test for now. You can assign it based on color as well. So we'll just take a random one there. And you're also able to set these up as shortcut keys on your keyboard. So if you want to categorize a certain email, we can set it up as Control F10 and hit OK. So now that's showing up in your color categories, and you're going to be OK to hit right there. So now, since we were on that email right here, and we went to categorize, and we just set up the test, it's now showing as test. But if I want to remove that, I can just either hit Control F10 or hit that drop down again and unclick that. So moving on, if anybody has any questions, feel free to stop me at any time. The next thing we're going to dive into here is setting up some email rules. Email rules are good for automatically filtering and moving emails you receive in your inbox to designated folders based on conditions that are met in that email. So to set up some rules, we're going to look at these emails here from Dan with all these shortage reports, which is one of many reports that the customer solutions team receives on a daily basis. And it's very easy to get your inbox flooded in the morning with several reports and can cause some unwanted stress for sure. So just as a way to kind of automate that process and designate those emails to a specific folder, we're going to set up some email rules. And to do that, up at the top here in the Home tab, you're going to see this Rules tab. And you can hit drop down, and we're going to go to Create Rule. So this is going to bring up this box here. This is the little shortcut. This is like very high level. You can also get down into the weeds and break this down into some additional conditions. And once those conditions are met, you can essentially tell the email to do the following. So like right here, just as a quick, easy one, we're going to go email from Dan Cummings. And anytime that that subject line contains the words shortage report, so these two will be the conditions for the email. So anytime I get an email from Dan with that subject containing shortage report, I can tell it to do something. So for the sake of this one, I'll say move the item to a new folder, and you are able to select which folder you want to direct the email to. So I'll just select the reports one right here, and I'll hit OK. You can also go into some advanced options, which I'll show another example of here in a minute. But we'll hit OK, and this will take a second for the reports or the rules to run and get set up. So once it's set up, you're going to hit Run this rule now. So once we hit OK, all of the emails that I have from Dan with that shortage report in the subject line are now directed automatically into the folder here in my reports folder. If we want to get a little bit more in-depth with the rules we want to set up, another email we can look at. I get this sent out to me on a daily basis, and I know that it's something that I'm going to have to do. So once I get an email from Amber with shorts in the subject, I can flag that to do automatically. So we'll go to create rules again, create a new rule, and down at the bottom, there's going to be some advanced options we can select. So we're going to start with every time I receive an email from Amber and the subject contains shorts. Then we're going to head into some advanced options. So on the conditions where the email has to be met, there are some other things here. You can go through and mark some specific things where there are specific words in the body or in the header, and if it's assigned to a certain category. But for this sake, we just need this. We're going to get a little bit more in depth with what we want to do with this email since we're changing it to not only filter or move it to a new folder, but also we want to flag this as a to-do list in the bottom right here. So we'll hit next on this advanced options screen, and this will be the actions. So what we're going to want to do and select here is we want to flag this message for a follow-up, and down here in the bottom, we're going to click this underlined hyperlink, and it's going to give you the option to change this. So I want to have this as a follow-up for today, and I'm going to hit OK. So I'm going to hit next here, and you can also add in exceptions, but for this example, I'm not going to add any exceptions in. And you're going to hit finish, and you can just hit OK in there. So now what this is going to do, every time I receive an email from Amber Hausman with shorts in the subject line, it will automatically flag this as a to-do item in the bottom right of my corner, or bottom right corner of my screen right here. So some other things that we can set up as a way to reduce some time for some repetitive emails. I know within Customer Solutions, we have a lot of under lead time requests, and there's a specific template that our team had developed to be able to be used to fill out and kind of make that process more streamlined. And it can definitely be a tedious task to fill that out. So some things we can do to minimize the time spent on that. You can set up email templates, which live in this choose form at the top tab right here. So once you're in the choose form, you're going to want to change this to look in user templates. And within here, this will be all of the individual templates I had set up for myself. So we'll look at the under lead time one as an example, and I'll show you how to set this up here in a second.
I don't know if everyone has that choose form icon.
It's under new items.
Yeah.
If you don't see the choose form at the top left, you also may select new items, which is at the top left, hit more items, and it will be the second from the bottom.
And then you can also right-click on that choose form to add this to your quick access toolbar, which will be right up at the top here. So looking back at the under lead time template here, very standard to be sent out a few times a day. So it can definitely be tedious to send and fill these out. So as a way to set this up as a template for ourselves, once you have the blank email set up with the template, you're going to want to hit File, Save As, and on the left-hand side here, we're going to save this in the Windows drive, and we're going to change this File Save As type to Outlook Template. And it's going to allow you to change this to whatever you want to save it as. So whenever we go back into that Choose Forms tab, all of the templates that you save will be available right there. So I'll save this as the PDS example, and I'll close this out. So the next time I have an under lead time request that I need to fill out, I can go up to my Choose Forms tab, and then you're going to want to look in your own user templates. And right here you can see the file that I just saved, the PDS example. and then open that up, fill it out, and then send that off to whoever you need to. Just a quick way to, reduce some copy paste and trying to find up or dig up the templates within OneDrive or the Z Drive. And the last thing that I'm going to touch on is going to be some quick steps, very similar to the rules that we had set up previously. But the quick steps will live in the top tab here underneath this quick steps tab. A couple things I have already set up are team email, and you can do some different things within the quick steps. If you want to create a new one, we're going to hit this drop down for more, and we'll do new quick step. This will give you some options here. You can automatically set it up for a one-click to move an email item to a certain folder. You can categorize it, you can flag it, and so on and so forth. So we'll set up one here. I have a team email one set up, and this is useful just sending off quick emails to the team. So underneath the new quick steps, we're going to go to new email 2, and we can just name this team email. And what it's going to do is create a new message, and you can select who you want to send a message to. You can search in this box, or you can also go into the address book and search. So I'll just start typing some members of the team. So I'll put Riley on there and put Dan. And I'll hit OK. And once you're done setting it up with whoever's on your team, you can hit Finish. So back up in the Quick Steps box right here, it is going to show you these little buttons to hit with the team email. So we can just hit this new one, and this will send out a blank email with everyone you need to send this to, and you just go ahead and fill that out. Some other things we can do with the Quick Steps, for example here, we can categorize something and then move it to a folder, and we'll go to New Quick Step and Categorize and Move. So we'll just leave that name as right there, so it's pretty self-explanatory. And then the actions here, so it'll be move to folder. You can uncheck these if you don't want to move it to a folder, or you can just categorize certain things. But we'll go choose folder. So for the example here, I'm going to look at some project management stuff that I have. We'll go, this email from Dory is highlighted, so I'm going to choose folder to send this to, and I'm going to choose my PMO folder. And you can categorize this message based on a certain color that we had set up previously. So for this, I have PMO assigned to green, so I'll select that, and then you can also mark this as read or an unread email, and we'll hit Finish. So if I go to the email here from Dory, and I want to categorize that and move it automatically with one click, up at the top in your Quick Steps, you can hit this Categorize and Move button that we just set up, and now that email is now gone in my PMO folder, and it's automatically categorized to match that green that we have set up. So these were just some quick steps and, just general Outlook tips and tricks we had put together. But if you guys have any questions, feel free to ask and reach out. And I know Riley had mentioned previously that we will also be sending out a deck with some recaps and some quick tips on what we just covered. But that's going to wrap it up for us today, and feel free to reach out.
I do have one more question for everybody. If you're logging into the WebEx, please put your first and last name to identify yourself. We're keeping attendance to help with your guys' performance at the end of the year, so you know what trainings you attended, and you can share that, especially for the CS 2020, just to demonstrate that you are investing in your personal development, and we get you credit and acknowledge that you're doing that. So thank you, everybody, for our first soft skill, or I guess first hard skill for the PDS. Appreciate your time, and great job, Riley and Justin.